What's happening?
What's happening with you?
All right, not much. We here live again.
Yeah, buddy.
Forks and spoons going crazy. another 77 flavors starts now.
This is the podcast where we visit all 77 of Chicago's historic neighborhoods and discuss their heritage and taste the amazing food.
And if you know anything about us, we love two things, food and Chicago, so I can't wait to burn this gas money.
You ready?
Let's get it.
This is the 77 Flavors of Chicago, the podcast.
Welcome back to another dope episode, number 24.
Damn.
Yeah, we moving right along. Moving right along.
What's half of 77?
I should. 30 something and a half. I don't know.
30 something and a half.
Right. I know it's a half in it because it's an odd number, so right. It's got to be a half.
That's true.
Dario, Sarah,
hey.
And we here with our good friend that we broke bread with, Julius from the Chicago History Museum. Y'all make some noise for our boy Julius right now. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. Thank you for feeding me.
We just said how you doing, like we have been sitting with him for like an hour.
Well,
now.
you know that's the thing. You can't get rid of me because you fed me. So.
Yeah. You here with us now?
Right. I'm here.
You here with us? Like I said, Julius is a curator and historian working out of the Chicago History Museum, but that's not the only place you've been. You want to go ahead and tell people about yourself?
Yeah. A historian and a curator. I've been here in Chicago now for over 7 years. I came to work on my PhD in history at the University of Chicago, and I'm finishing up, so I'm excited about that. And I got my start in museums, actually, at the DuSable Museum of African American History, so I always want to shout them out and
there you go.
Give them some love for giving me an opportunity to get in this field. Yes, please support the DuSable. And after a couple of years, I was working on a grant-funded project that was using technology and social media to really engage with different audiences and get them connected to history.
Yeah.
And after the project was winding down, I transitioned to the Chicago History Museum, where I've been now over 4 years, and in that time, did some digital content management, now working in curation as assistant curator and now a full curator, and just really working to bring new stories about Chicago, new perspectives on some of the stories we already know, and enjoying it very much.
That's so dope. And one of the exhibits you just put on last month is the Chicago Fire exhibit, right?
Yes, I've been practicing this word. It is the sesquicentennial.
I don't know.
What the hell?
See, you wasted your time practicing that.
What is that word? I ain't never heard.
Is that 600?
150th anniversary.
What is it?
Sesquicentennial. Yes.
Sesquicentennial?
Yes.
Oh,
Look
Lord.
at you. You're good with foreign words.
I guess.
What?
Sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial.
Yes.
Man,
what?
I don't know. Now I'm not.
Right.
Man, I had that one
it took a long time, right? We worked on the exhibit.
Is that?
It's got too many.
So we've been working on this exhibit almost 2.5 years.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Which is not the longest I've ever heard of to work on an exhibit, actually. So it takes a lot of legwork. But we opened it on the anniversary date, which was October 8th. And we're really excited about the engagement that we got in. It's an experience designed for the whole family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's something adults will connect with, children will connect with. They'll be able to interact with it together.
Yeah.
So it's really... a great opportunity, a great way to spend a couple hours learning about this important event in Chicago history.
Perhaps the most important event.
Yeah.
Because, we've talked about the Chicago Fire, the Great Chicago Fire, for a long time now on the podcast, and honestly, it really did shape,
literally
what Chicago is right now, and how we kind of pivoted to be better, you know what I'm saying, and how we influence the rest of the world too. So the Chicago Fire, if y'all please go out and check that out, because I'm sure
how long is it running for?
Yeah.
It's technically a permanent exhibition.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Good.
We're projecting it to be open at least through 2024 and into 2025.
Nice.
Good.
Okay.
So
we got time.
Plenty of time to come to it. And one of the things I've enjoyed is we did a good job creating a rich experience that I think you can be seen multiple times, right?
Yeah,
so
right.
I recommend coming and then, coming back and seeing it a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, where is Chicago History Museum?
Chicago History Museum is located at 1601 North Clark, on the corner of Clark Street and North Avenue.
Yeah.
It's with the southernmost edge of Lincoln Park.
There you go.
So yes, please stop by. We're open 6 days a week. We're closed on Mondays, but the rest of the days we're open, and we'd love to have you.
There you go. So that's a nice segue. Talking about Clark Street into the history part, and now y'all, I already let Julius know that he is the historian. So I'm gonna take a half day today, y'all. I know what I know, but I'm gonna let him do what he does. But I don't know, Julius, if you really ready, but this is how we get ready here on the podcast. We have to get ourselves in sync.
This is the spirit that guides us through the learning process.
It's this little moment right here. There we go.
We have not been sued yet.
Right, I feel like you're going to tell me, that drugs are bad.
They are.
This is set up. This is a DARE program right here.
This is a DARE program. Oh, man. So if you haven't noticed by the title of the podcast, today we are talking about Lincoln Park Community Area number 7 here in Chicago. And the boundaries are Diversity Parkway to the north, North Avenue to the south, Lake Michigan to the east. When you get to these north places,
right, yeah,
Lake Michigan is always
Michigan.
the eastern border. And then Chicago River to the west. This is the first one where we have the Chicago River to the west.
To the west?
Yeah. This is also the second time we've been talking about it.
I can't imagine that. Where is that?
So you remember the bridge that where the Best Buy right over there?
Oh, like Webster.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the Lincoln Park boundary.
Gotcha.
But and now that's kind of cool for the people that are trying to visualize this. If you've been to Lincoln Park, now you know what we're talking about. The river. That's the western edge. So pretty cool. I'm glad that we started doing that because that does give people a visual. So now we were talking about Clark Street. We were talking about and that was a segue. There's a little fun fact about that right there. So, 1824, the 19th century is what we're talking about. The U.S. Army actually had a small outpost near what is today's Clybourne and Armitage Avenue. But the Native Americans had a settlement along Green Bay Trail, which today is Clark Street. And now Clark Street, Green Bay Trail actually went all the way to Green Bay, Wisconsin.
No way.
Yes, it did. And parts of
Fuck the Packers.
Yeah. Let me give you one more here. Let me give you one of these. Hold on. Say that one more time for the people in the back. Yes, you can.
I'm only allowed one fuck.
No. That's all you need for the Packers is one fuck. So Clark Street, as we know it today, was Green Bay Trail, and it went all the way to Green Bay. It actually still goes to it's called Green Bay Trail up in Milwaukee right now. So so fun history right there about Clark Street. That's why I was like, that's a perfect thing. You got anything on it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned the indigenous people. One of the things we're trying to do at the History Museum, and I think all of us Chicagoans, is understanding our relationship to the land, understanding the First Nations who are still here.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've always got an opportunity to edify that, and there's so much more. Even I will say that I need to learn and more work I need to do. And I think coming from that place of realizing that we need to listen and learn and not presume that we know everything.
Yeah.
It's so invaluable.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we always try to find like the Native American history because the word Chicago stems from a Native American word. You know what I mean? So and that's such a deep history in here in Chicago. So it's funny, like I found that little bit of information, which is realistically so important because we are on Clark Street all the time. You know what I mean?
All the time.
Nuts on Clark is a thing made famous. You know what I mean? By Chicago baseball. And peanuts, things like that. But you just say Nuts on Clark and you say Clark Street.
Yeah.
and you don't realize, well, that was especially our arch rivals, Green Bay. You went all the way up there, you know,
Right.
and then the Native Americans had a settlement there.
Right.
You know?
I feel like, honestly, and this is my own fault because I do have all the information in the world on my phone, but I'd never even crossed my mind to like look around and see where things started.
Right.
And I think we're actually coming up on the 6-month anniversary of this podcast. So over the last 6 months, I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I learned the most was the river tour with the Chicago Architecture
Right.
Center.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic.
That was mind blowing. I mean, it was really eye opening, and I encourage everyone because there is indigenous history all around you. So whatever neighborhood you're in, you should probably look that shit
Check
up.
it out. And the cool thing is, Chicago now, I feel like in these times now where identity and identifying history
Right.
and is such a huge thing, whether it be individually or as a greater mass
Right.
situation. Chicago's really owning up that Potawatomi, and
Right.
you see the signages up now
Yeah.
right there on the Riverwalk, and that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
That wasn't
Yeah.
there before, but now we are kind of owning that history
Yep.
and making it very visible.
Right.
You know?
Especially for a city that has a lot of privileged neighborhoods, I think you owe it to, and that's okay. I mean, you don't control the privilege you're born with, but I think it's also very important to like choose to educate yourself, because, and then use that privilege in a way that betters your community.
Yeah.
And then also, my thing, I think, is remembering that First Nation and Indigenous people are still here.
Right,
Yes,
right.
yes.
They sort of tell this history that they're gone.
Right.
Right.
And, but they're
Still here.
They're still here, right? And so, again, making opportunities to learn, and connect. There's so much work in American Indian Center here in the city. Like we really need to do more. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna bring up some more stuff, and again, we are live on location. So
If
they
you
are
hear
filling
the
up coffee
espresso
pot-
machine in the
Yeah,
background.
they're filling up coffee pots right now, right here in Nookie. So, but continually, as we were talking like before, where we were eating about the borders of Chicago, what it used to be, and Lakeview, Lincoln Park used to be part of the Lakeview Township. And we've talked about this several times during the podcast over the last 24 weeks. But it was originally part of the Lakeview Township, and the northern border of Chicago was North Avenue, right around that area. So
crazy.
which is, when you think about it, that's small. You know what I mean?
Very small.
That's very small where we used to be. And we were talking, laughing, joking, because last week's episode, go back and listen to it, we were just in Hyde Park.
Right.
And that was considered a suburb, a getaway.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
just think about that. Hyde Park was a getaway for
From the
Chicago.
city, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
crazy.
it just shows you how small Chicago was and how much we grown. So
Absolutely right, and thinking about that process of growing, and like how a city grows, what does it mean for a city to grow, and how waterways. You mentioned the Chicago River, how they really define life in the city, right?
Right.
How I was talking about. I give a tour of Chicago's history through its flag, and the blue bars actually represent water.
Yes.
Right.
In Chicago, and tell the story about building the Great Canal, which is now the main branch of the river, traversing the flow, this sort of engineering marvel, all the things that have happened that really shaped the city today. And so it's so important to be mindful of this.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
you don't realize that, like you said, the waterways. Chicago River is not just something that's a pretty thing to talk
Right,
about.
right.
That was a means of business. That was a
Right.
means of population. You know what I mean? Like, and getting people to come here and be like, oh, yeah, let's settle right here. Hell, after, we did the, I think it was Irving Park where we were at, when we did that one. But the river is the reason why we kind of have the bricks now after the Chicago fire, because, we needed to figure out something. Once people found out, oh, wait a minute, this clay right here is actually good for making bricks so that we don't burn down again.
Right. Actually, I had a question. Did the city start expanding after the fire?
Yeah,
Is that
after
when?
the
Okay.
fire, yeah.
Okay.
So annexation happens in the 1880s and 1890s, and basically bringing in these areas, the suburbs, into the city to grow, and that continues, to happen. So by about the turn of the century, Chicago roughly has its shape that it is now. So as you see, very rapid and very large expansion.
Yeah, and speaking of that annexation, 1889, of course, for like the fifth or fourth time on this podcast, we've said Lakeview Township, that's when it was annexed to the city.
Right.
And now, when we say it's annexed to the city, a lot of times the city, you got it, right? And then we said, all right, now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with it. You know what I mean? But at the same time, in addition to the riverways, it was the streets. A lot of times when they came annexed, they became greater because now city provided. You got streetcar accessibility. You
Isn't
got
that why
train
Irving Park
really blew up?
Became part of the city because they didn't have the infrastructure.
They didn't have that means. They thought they could do it on their own because they wanted that to be like its own, like little village and such. But they realized we can't do this shit. We don't even have street lights. That's how serious it was in Irving Park. They didn't even have street lights. But now Lakeview Township was kind of like a little bit more advanced, so to say. But you still didn't have the amenities that Chicago was getting as a whole city. So, of course, it became part of Chicago 1889. Now, 1868, Lincoln Park was open. Lincoln Park, the park, actual park was open. And it is, we said this before, the largest one in Chicago, 7 miles, over 1,200 acres.
That's crazy.
Spanning the eastern seaboard, eastern part.
Lake George.
Right. The lake.
It's huge, right? And then, there's so many great institutions. Obviously, we have the History Museum, but you also have Lincoln Park Zoo, which is a wonderful zoo that's free admission, so you can't repeat that. And then you also have the Nature Museum, the Peggy Boulevard Nature Museum. So a lot of great cultural institutions just in that park, and it's massive.
It's huge.
It is.
Yes,
it is. My favorite thing which I think is still part of Lincoln Park Zoo is the lily pond.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things. It's like a little door. You go in and it's like a beautiful you don't feel like you're in the city, and that's what I love the most about having such a large park in the city is you can really escape from being in the crowded.
I mean it's funny now. It used to be escape to get out of the city, but now it's escape within the city.
Right.
So because Lincoln Park is so massive, you really do feel like this is here.
Yeah,
like this.
I remember as like a child when we used to visit. We would come from Jordan every summer because my uncle lived here, and it used to blow my mind that you can be in a city. To one side, it's like green and parks and a lake, and then the other side, it's like skyscrapers.
Right.
And that's why it's such an amazing place to be.
It's always in a backdrop too.
Yeah.
It's always a beautiful backdrop because if you go right over there, right outside of Lincoln Park, I mean, you on the bridge right there, you're looking at the skyline, and that's a huge picture, Instagrammable place right there. But
and then also the lake and having like a beach,
right?
Several,
city.
right. Like that's great too. And just being able to recreate and having the planners, the people who having the vision to realize that you need to set aside space to enjoy. I mean, Chicago has a lot of great parks.
A lot of great parks.
Like you don't realize like that. That's a luxury, right? Because there are so many places in the world where that's not the case.
That's not the case. Yeah. What's crazy is what you said in there real quick there. You said we plan for it, and that's the thing about Chicago is like the foresight. Hey, we've driven through and we say like, think about it. We have a major highway going through a city.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's well done. So to say, it take forever to build, finish that motherfucker.
How much of this park planning came after the fire?
Oh, actually, a lot of it came on some level before the fire, as you mentioned Lincoln Park before. But the man sort of known as was the planner, Daniel Burnham. He wrote his plan for Chicago in the early 1900s, and he really sort of laid out a vision for growth and setting aside, major thoroughfares, the boulevard system, expanding the parks, creating more open space and greenery in the city, and really sort of being attentive to quality of life in ways that we are the beneficiaries of even now. And I mean, that's one of the things I just noticed when I got here was, you sort of think you're going to go into an urban jungle type thing, and it's not quite like that in Chicago.
Exactly. Right? Almost the opposite.
Right. And, there it is great. It does so many places feel like neighborhoods. It does feel like home. It is welcoming and inviting, and nothing like some other major cities. And so I think Chicago is a well-planned place.
Very well planned.
Yes.
And we've mentioned this episode particularly, we've mentioned the Chicago Fire. Something interesting about the Chicago Fire that I do want to bring up in very, very deep correlation to Lincoln Park. So Lincoln Park had a cemetery, right? We didn't start burying people until 1843, right? Is when people start getting buried. It's a 57-acre cemetery, right? Right in Lincoln Park. And the cholera pandemic kind of killed off a lot of people around that time, right? It was very bad for a lot of people. Right at Clark and North Avenue, we're back to Clark and North Avenue, is where a lot of people were buried, right?
Yeah.
Now, there was about 35,000 people that were buried. Now, and keep this in mind, you had to bury some people somewhere. So when you have a new cemetery, right, that you have to put all these bodies somewhere, it accumulates 35,000, right? Chicago Fire happens, right? Chicago Fire happens, and you gotta move. Well, before then, it started to get overrun. So you got to move people to move the burial. So they were like moving bodies and things to
That's
other
crazy.
places. One we just visited, Rose Hill Cemetery.
Yeah.
A lot of places were going there to move there. The Graceland and things like that. Grace Cemetery. Now, here's where the Chicago Fire played, because back in the day, all you had was markers. Where you can mark down where the bodies were, right? Chicago Fire came, tore down all the markers, right? and you had no place.
That's
you didn't know
crazy.
where things were. This is where it gets kind of wild, right? because of that, Chicago really didn't know where the bodies were. Without the markers, you don't know where these bodies were. And I've mentioned before that there's a lot of bodies underneath Michigan Avenue too that we don't know where.
That's
you
insane.
and
creepy.
Yeah, here's that. So a third of those 35,000 people, a third, which is 10,000 roughly, people are still buried unallocated. We don't know.
And the museum is built directly on that old grave site.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so every once in a while when we're out there doing stuff, we find remains, right?
Yeah.
And, we have a process now for working with people who deal with sort of the dignity of human remains and sort of make sure that they're properly cared for. But it's an issue you sort of think about.
Do you have any haunted stories?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are so many people claim that they've seen haunted at the museum and haunted stuff. I've never had an experience with a supernatural or paranormal in the museum, but I've heard stories from colleagues that have said that different things in the museum are haunted, and so we talk about that. I actually did a media interview with WGN talking about sort of the haunted history of Lincoln Park because of, like you said, these were people's final resting places, and they were disturbed. They were disrupted. And, you start realizing that dead is forever, right?
Yeah,
right.
And
there you just and I was actually reading a story about like what we should do, like that maybe burying people is not the most viable thing, because you start thinking about it, like
you need the land.
You're gonna run out of space.
You need the land. And it's wild.
That's
because
crazy.
And again, we keep having this theme of yesteryear whenever we talk about these dates as we get into the 20th century. In 1962, when they were building the Zoo Barn Foundation, is when they discovered rolls of skeletons and caskets, right? Just discovery. And get this, 1998, 81 more remains were found when they were building the museum right there for us. So it's like, you think about it, you like,
I would quit my job if I was the person digging that up. I'd be like, I'm not coming back.
I'm done with this.
It's so wild to think. And like I mentioned before, they tried to move everybody as much as they could, but so that fire wouldn't destroy it. But there's one tomb that's still there in Lincoln Park that they just couldn't move because it was too big. It's mausoleum. So
it's still there. we recently opened an outdoor experience at History Trail, and so it's a stop on the trail, and so you can walk through and learn about the history of the park and the museum outdoors. And so it's so fascinating to think about working every day on a cemetery. You try not to realize that, right? And that there are still some folks buried out there.
Yeah, still some people out there.
Right.
On a lighter note, so as we kind of progress through the 19th into the 20th century, the Great Depression actually had a huge impact on Chicago, Lincoln Park particularly, because a lot of the buildings. This was a more affluent area, right? Mm-hmm. Because of Lakeview Township and a little bit more affluent. But the Great Depression came, and a lot of the buildings that were here they were going down. They went down. Nobody was upkeeping. Kind of like Uptown, Uptown had its boom, and then when Depression hit, people were like, we can't afford this shit. You know what I mean? So in 1954, the Lincoln Park Conservation Association was created to, again, this concept of Chicago being a great city, preserve a lot of that stuff, preserve a lot of the buildings, and obviously a lot of tie-ins right here. But I believe it's 1956. When Mayor Daley had the Renewal Act for Lincoln Park, that kind of caused a little bit of a rift, with some of the folks here that were local at the time. And by local, I mean this area, huge Polish population. Yes. Back when it first was founded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, huge Polish. And actually, back then it wasn't Poland. It wasn't. They weren't Polish. That was like the north. It's now the northeastern part of Poland. Is where they came from. But while they were here, Puerto Ricans were a huge population. Like the first home in not Humboldt Park, they were like the first home in Lincoln Park here. And they really in the 50s, 60s, 70s made their home here, right? Now, I say it was a riff, right? Because Mayor Daley, the first Mayor Daley, he
There's two of them?
Yes, he did the Renewal Act, right? And so when he did that, the Urban Renewal Act, it kind of forced a lot of the Puerto Ricans out.
Yes, a lot of displacement, right? And people realize it. I mean, even some of my colleagues that worked at the museum over 30 years remember, sort of Lincoln Park having a working class vibe and having some sort of like working class culture. And I think now, as it being on the north side, has become much more affluent in its sort of orientation.
Right.
But it does have a long history of being a first destination for immigrant population.
Right.
If you think about it, it has a great location.
Yeah,
right.
fantastic.
As a neighborhood, it's easily accessible. It's very close to downtown. And if you look around, you'll see there's a lot of housing stock, right? So there's a lot of sort of apartments and places to live, but there are also a lot of big old houses, right? And a big old house, if you got the wherewithal and the means, can become a very, very valuable piece of property very quickly.
Very quickly. This is kind of like the start of like the Puerto Rican human rights type of situation that started. And a guy by the name of Jose Chacha Jimenez was the president of the Young Lords here, street gang here in Chicago. Now, of course, street gang. I'm sure if you do your history in Chicago, you know what a street gang is. You've probably heard of the Young Lords, right? They transformed into a human rights activist group, actually, which actually spread outside of Chicago and filtered its way throughout the country, throughout the nation, for their work when it comes to human rights. And their whole thing is people of color getting pushed out, when they lived there.
Which is like a timeless story.
It's a timeless story, right? But this kind of made a huge impact. Of course, the government didn't like the thought process of gangs, because that's what they were. Instead, they flipped the narrative, of course. You know what I mean? Like they didn't tell the true story of what the Young Lords had become. Now, the cool thing about what the Young Lords did is they were so big in the community. In 1983, when Harold Washington ran for mayor and he got it, you know what I mean? Like they were kind of a big driving force because they spoke to the people in Humboldt Park, and of course at that time Humboldt Park had become more Puerto Rican than it was originally German, and things like that. So
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to comment on the like the gang culture, because like in college, part of my final like senior project was talking about the cartel and the gangs and how they create so much of the economy of the city that they're in or the country that they're in, and they bring in like billions of dollars.
Yeah.
But I think you label some things gangs. Like, I mean, the Black Panthers were called a gang.
But they weren't. We were just fighting for our rights.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of these gangs sort of are able to thrive because they sort of fill a vacuum that exists because things, particularly advocacy, protection.
Right.
You know, the Black Panthers. This sort of idea of documenting mistreatment by authorities, by law enforcement as a part of its experience, and then also even crime. There's a vice. There's a market for vice, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This is why the government is in the vice business now because they understand like people gonna want to drink, people gonna want to smoke, people gonna want to gamble, right?
Yep.
So. Now the government does it, right?
Right.
That's a
money investment there.
Right. I mean, apparently we're gonna be the Midwest Las Vegas. I don't know if you.
Yeah, we got it. There's about 5 different bids in.
Yeah, right. Like they got authority to build like 6 casinos, and I'm like, who's going to like all these casinos?
I mean, when you got to now here's the thing. So Chicago, obviously, we know we're on the population decline, right?
Mm-hmm.
They talk about by 2040 we might be 4th now, but something like that, you got you put some casinos here. What does that do to the population?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like people are going to, at the very least, we're going to be a tourist, right? At the very least. So,
but sorry, but to jump back to the gang thing, I think one thing is like when you look at a place like Chicago where it is part of like the history is the existence of like mobs and gangs. I think it's important to think of like why did they feel the need to exist, or why to this day do they feel the need to exist in certain neighborhoods? It's because something that should be provided by the government that is meant to care for you is lacking.
Well, gangs are still being formed every day.
Right.
When you think about it, we just call it something different.
They start for
we just march down the street. That's how we do. We organize different now, and it looks a little bit more presentable than calling us a gang.
Yeah.
But when really all we're doing is fighting for our rights.
Right. And most gangs start as like a form to protect the people that live in the community.
That's exactly right.
And there's this one of the largest Mexican gangs to ever exist. At one point, they were violent. They would come in and they would kill people to kind of like mark their territory. But they were also like, if you were part of the gang, you got health insurance. Your kids went to school for free. You were protected. You had a pension when you retired. So like they're businesses. I mean, in their core. And I think there was a TED talk about how they talk about how they're actually businesses.
Right.
Not advocating for gangs. I'm just trying to explain.
And I mean, I think it's the answer to that is that. Someone's going to provide for people, right?
Yeah.
And so it's either going to be a legitimate entity or illegitimate.
Yeah, right.
But people are going to get what they need, and so I think thinking about that as we start addressing, policies around how we're going to help people get access to the things that they need.
Right, exactly.
There's so much that people are lacking access to.
Man, look, and that's like you said, it's a story as old as time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, but I bet a lot of people listening didn't even think about that part of history when it came to Lincoln Park, because the Lincoln Park we know today, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Right.
You know what I mean? You wouldn't be able to tell. But here's some kind of going a little bit back in time with some more fun history. 1893, we know that was the World's Fair, the Chicago Fair, the World Columbian Exposition.
I'm not going to do it this time. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, don't do it. We're not getting into it for... no. Let's not. The listeners know what we're talking about. We'll tell you off air, all right, Julius?
All right.
But in 1893, the original Ferris wheel that made it at the Chicago Fair was built and created, and it lived in over there for 3 years.
Over where?
Over in Navy Pier.
Oh, okay.
Navy Pier. Now, where... not Navy. It was Navy Pier.
No, it
wasn't.
It was down at the fair site on the Midway.
Yes.
Oh,
so
right.
The Plaza Nines.
There you go. There we go. Yeah. In 1896 to 1993, moved to a small amusement park. It was right on Clark and Wrightwood Avenue.
Yes.
Is it gone?
Well, yes.
Yes, the original Ferris wheel.
Yeah, so the funny thing is it's gone. It went to actually St. Louis. It went to St. Louis.
Right. I remember you. I think we talked about this already.
Yeah, it went to St. Louis.
It gives the people a sense of scale.
It was 200.
Yes. The thing I always tell people is the coach cars that you ride in were the size of today's school buses.
Yes.
So
what?
Yes.
Yeah. So you
this is a
imagine
very big thing.
very big thing. 200. It was over 200 feet tall.
So is it bigger than the one that's there now?
It's not bigger than the one that's there now, but it was bigger than the one that was there before.
Yeah. Yeah. And that one just changed.
Yeah.
But the one that's
recently.
there, the one that's there now, the coach cars aren't that big.
No, not it. I don't think you could do that now.
It's almost like how did they
do that?
Right,
How they get away with that? Yeah. Well, I mean,
You had like 20 buses just floating.
that's
in the
way
air.
more than that shit.
Right.
Yeah, it just.
When you're trying to show off the world to
Right,
the world
that's
that we,
true.
you know,
We're the
this-
best.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's how it all started, was just to stick it to France, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not gonna build a tower, we're
Right.
gonna build a wheel.
Yeah, right. We're gonna build and actually it was because they wanted to compete with the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
You know, so
Wow.
that's why it was really made.
Yes, it's
That's
crazy.
And then, but we still love French. So in France, we still love them. We just beat them every time.
Right.
Another cool thing, DePaul University is right here in Lincoln Park. But did you know that it wasn't called DePaul University first? It was called St. Vincent's College.
Oh yeah,
And-
because there's St. Vincent's Church,
Yep,
right?
yep.
On campus.
1898. It wasn't until 1907 that it was called DePaul University, and I put 1907 to dash.
Yeah, right.
Like it's no change.
Right.
But yeah, that's some fun bit of history. Some notable people. I always like doing notable people here in the neighborhoods. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. I mentioned them several times. Gene Siskel, Roger Ebert, film critics, movie critics.
Yeah.
They were our TV guys. They were our IMDb. They were our Rotten Tomatoes before. You know,
Those were
before
two
those were a
thumbs
thing. Yeah, you know, two thumbs up. Two thumbs up. They were here. Jonathan Taze, you probably have no clue what I'm talking about.
No idea.
That is a hockey player from Chicago Blackhawks.
A what player?
This
A hockey player.
Yeah.
Hockey?
Yeah, hockey. Let's do that hockey.
Sure, yeah.
It's a significant team here in Chicago.
It is. I remember the year they won the championship.
Yeah.
And I was flying out of O'Hare, and you couldn't look anywhere without seeing Blackhawks.
Yeah, we got pride here. We got
We
pride
love our
here.
teams.
We love our team. Part of the original six. Chicago is a sports town.
You know what fact really blew my mind? You said it's one of the few, or maybe the only city where all of its
All the
major
teams.
sports teams are in the city.
Yep. Until the Bears say
Right,
which one are the
right. But for now, right?
Man, for
They're
now
not
we
going
are
to.
the.
I don't think they will.
Shit.
Why would they?
It's getting serious now. Let me
Is
tell
it
you.
I
really?
mean, it's all about money. I've been fascinated by the Atlanta Braves, right? So, because the Atlanta Braves obviously played in Atlanta for many years, but they moved to a suburb called Cobb County, a suburb, and you know, it's alienated a lot of people because you know, I had a very large African American following.
Yeah.
They were in sort of that area. Obviously, Hank Aaron being a famous Brave.
Yep.
And by moving to Cobb County, a predominantly white suburb, a lot of African American fans felt like they abandoned it.
Yep.
And on the one hand, I can sort of see that because brothers love the Bears in
We
Chicago.
love the
like
Bears.
I
get depression when we lose.
Right,
Yeah.
it's like so they have you know, a strong following, I think, in the African American community, especially with Justin Fields now.
Yes.
Getting ready to do his thing, but you know, when you start looking at teams' fan bases, not who roots, but who buys tickets.
Right.
Tickets is high, right?
Yeah.
So the people buying tickets tend to be more affluent and disproportionately be suburban. So I'm confident that the Bears got metrics that say the people who actually buy tickets and actually come into the games are disproportionately suburbanized.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean the south suburbs. There's a lot of people that live on the south suburbs that you know that.
Yeah, but you're going to, you know, when the answer is going to be we need the space.
Right.
You know, yeah, but that's going to be the safe answer
Yes, and Soldier Field is the smallest
in the
NFL
league
stadium
for the oldest team in the league.
Yeah, and also it's a landmark, and so it makes it sort of limited in what you can do.
Oh.
So there's like a lot of like logistical challenges. But what I'm always fascinated by is there is like land, like around.
You got.
So they want to expand it, but they can't. Is that the thing?
Well, I think obviously it boils down to money, because they don't, like you said, you don't want to mess with a landmark here in Chicago, and you've already messed with it once,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, and
that's what Kanye set himself on fire inside it. So.
Yeah, he's a wild boy, but you've already messed with it a couple times. So, do you want to keep on doing it? And now just to add a dome over.
That's all really, they want. They just want to add a dome.
Well, you want more seating too. You want more seating, but eventually, the Super Bowl is huge.
You can host a Super Bowl. You can host a Final Four.
Yeah.
If it's an indoor, even a retractable roof, you have more options for different
all right,
things.
I think that's my cap for sports talk.
All right. We overloaded.
I've reached the limit.
Overloaded. I got one last thing, and I'm gonna get out of here when it comes to notable people. Did you know the first American saint by the Roman Catholic Church was here? Lived here.
I did not know that.
In 1940, July 7th, 1946, she was canonized as Roman American saint, and her name was Mother Frances Xavier Cabrini.
From Cabrini.
From Cabrini, there you go. So, we got our notables here, man. Chicago, again, one of the greatest cities, especially in America, but all over the place. So
that's crazy.
That's my history, man. I feel like I hung in there with you.
Yeah, man. No, you did it. Like, come on through to the history museum, man.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, let's go to do it.
I love Chicago history. I don't claim to be a historian, but man, I definitely respect what y'all do, and I love learning about the city, man. And this podcast, I hope that I can translate this through to the people through, put a funny spin on it, but we telling facts, Yeah, we telling that story, man. What'd you think about this?
I loved it. It was great. I learned so much as always. Probably not going to remember it next time, but
she will. She will remember a lot of stuff.
I remember the stuff that one that repeats, because of course all the community areas are connected, so
there is some repetition in it.
Yeah, those I remember. Also, now I know when the Chicago fire happened. That date is imprinted in my mind.
Yeah.
See it into mine as well.
Yeah, you better.
Right.
You've been working on it for a few years.
Yeah. But like I said, we right here in the middle of Nookies right here in Lincoln Park. And we had some good breakfast.
Well, before we jump off, is there any very interesting Chicago fact that most people don't know, that off the top of your head you like to impress people that are first coming in or are curious about Chicago?
No, I mean, we touched so much on it. People really are interested about the cemetery, the museum being built on a cemetery. We tried to talk about so much of what Chicago was like in the past and draw connections. So in the exhibit, we talk about how Chicago was a city made of wood, and that included not only buildings but streets and sidewalks and even water pipes.
Really?
So we have those on display. And actually, if you go by what's known as the Bishop's House, which is right across north from the park, Lincoln Park, you can actually see an alley of wooden paved street, and so you can actually see what it was like.
Where we were.
Basically like blocks, that are turned over, almost looking like bricks, and that's how the streets were made out of wood back then. So it's a really fascinating history.
Man,
that's cool.
We said this before. All you got to do is look around, look up, look down, and you're going to find some history here in Chicago.
Yeah, for real.
Never short on it. Like I said, out here in Nookies too, we're going to take a short little break, get that sponsorship ad money, and and we're going to come back. We're going to talk about the food, the breakfast we even had. Another breakfast episode. I like it. We'll see y'all in a few.
We are back with the food portion of the episode.
Yeah, buddy.
And Julius, I don't know if you remember, we were talking about the subreddit, Am I the Asshole?
Yeah.
which is my favorite. I still look at it every single day.
It's part of the show.
I love it. Shit, I don't care if you love it, because you're going to listen to these Am I the Asshole segments. So I'm just going to read one of them. I think this one's really interesting, but we're going to read it, and then we'll talk about if you think they're the asshole. Okay, so a while ago, I, 23 female, bought a multi-socket adapter. I generally use it to myself to charge my own devices and whatever else I need it for. My roommate, 21 female, thinks it's for the household and that anybody can use it even though I paid for it by my own money. My phone was running low on battery, and somebody had plugged in the socket where I needed to put in my phone charger. I took it out and charged my phone, as I needed to go out soon. The next day, my roommate comes up to me furious. Apparently, she plugged her mini fridge into the socket, and when she went to go grab a yogurt that morning, she found all her food had spoiled.
Oh my goodness, yeah, you asshole.
Hold on. I tried to argue that it was mine, and I should be able to use it when I need to, but she wasn't listening and got my other roommates to back her up, claiming I should let the others use it, and I was an asshole for not asking before unplugging things. I said I was sorry and that her food spoiled, but it's mine, and if she wants to use it, she can give me half of what I paid for it. Now she isn't talking to me, and the rest of the roommates are on her side.
I mean, I never heard nobody claiming outlets.
I mean, she bought it.
Right.
She bought it.
She's like, this here my outlet. Like,
who claims an outlet?
I mean, you claim a charger.
I mean, that's different.
That's different.
An outlet?
Is it?
I mean, so is she saying like she... Like I mean, I guess I would need more context. It's like, is this the only outlet that it could be?
You could have took your phone and charged it somewhere else,
right? I mean, is it outlet in her room? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
It's in the common area. The outlet is in the common area.
Common area, common. If it's your outlet, put your outlet in your own room. Right? If it's
that's your fault.
Right? Like common area, like that's like saying like you buy you buy stuff that's like share, like you buy like appliances and stuff.
Yeah.
Different things, and you share it,
But
right?
who has priority use?
Right.
That's the question.
I mean,
so like it's. Go ahead.
It's a couple assholes in this situation because like she's ultimately the asshole. You claimed one, right? You claimed that outlet,
right? I mean, the premise of it is assholey, right? Yeah, like literally, like this here my outlet. Like I've never heard, like I heard the roommates. I had a roommate once. And, like I heard that people like claiming certain things, but like an outlet, outlet. Are outlets that scarce?
Yeah,
maybe.
And I'm sure she knew that they were using the outlet for the food.
She said someone had plugged. Like, could you not have traced the plug?
Right. It's like how many roommates do you have?
Right.
It's like, hey, like
But like, couldn't you have looked at? Oh, this is plugged into a fridge. Maybe I shouldn't unplug it.
First of all, it's a fridge outlet, so it's bigger than the rest of the plugs.
Right.
Like, so
it's a mini fridge.
Yeah. So it don't matter.
Yeah, that's true.
You still gonna know that's a big ass plug. You know?
Honestly, I think like all the food that went bad in that mini fridge probably costs more than the outlet.
Yeah, she should definitely pay for it.
Yeah, I mean that's sometimes even one of the reasons why I stopped having a roommate is because you gotta keep the peace, right? And so in that situation, I'd probably be like, okay, how much did the food cost?
Right.
Like, my bad. Like, but that's why you get your own place. You have your own shit. Like, that's really.
Or put the adapter in your room.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like, if it's that personal, like, keep it in your room. Or you're not a roommate person. Right. Like, I had that conversation with me. Like, I'm not a roommate person. I had a roommate. And I was like, I'm not a roommate person. So I had to bite the bullet, pay that extra money, get my own spot, and I lived there until I got married. And even then, I'd be like, I ain't a roommate person. Like, like living
your own
with somebody,
apartment.
right? Living with somebody is not.
It's tough.
It's tough. And so,
especially when y'all don't see eye to eye on everything. Right. Especially when y'all not like in a relationship.
Right.
And also, like, people are raised differently. So, like, you have different ways of cleaning. You have different ways of living. Like, it's
different
hard.
standards of cleanliness, different lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's
too many factors.
Yeah,
it's too many factors. Can't do it. I can't do it.
My wife is the last person I'm gonna live with. That's it.
That's funny.
Well, that was the Am I the Asshole segment.
That was a wild one. She's stupid.
Isn't that crazy?
Outlet.
Yeah.
This is my outlet. Like, I just couldn't imagine.
Now all I'm hearing my voice, that voice in my head. This here's my outlet. You can't use that.
Just can't imagine.
All right, so we are at Nookies 2.
Nookies 2.
Yeah.
But two as well, not two as a number 2.
I'm sure they played off of Nookies 2.
Yeah, also.
I do believe this is the second of them.
This is the second, so they played off of it.
Yeah. And
this is one on Halsted.
This is, it is. They have 2 locations. I think both are in Lincoln Park, technically, right? Or one is in Old Town. It is
bordering.
Right. It's like a breakfast slash lunch diner style. It's been in the neighborhood since 1973, and it was started with the grandfather now was a Greek immigrant, and he started Nookie's, and then the son took over. Unfortunately, he passed, and then his wife now runs the place. She runs both locations. And yeah, they have an awesome breakfast menu. I don't know. What do you think? What's the vibe like for someone that's looking to come here?
I like nice local diner. I feel like
long diner.
Local.
Oh, local.
Classic Americana. Classic diner. Food, and so it's very comfortable. The food tastes fresh and authentic.
It's bright.
It is bright.
I like it. I like it. It's like it makes you feel good.
It's classic diner, like American diner food, but it kind of looks a little French to me. Like it has like French vibes.
And you know, it's not like, you know, like some diners. I kind of like that, like almost like rundown vibe.
Me too.
Yeah.
But it's not that.
It's
like
not.
It's very nice, very bright, very well appointed. To use a interior design term, like
well appointed.
That's a very nice way of putting it. I like it. I like it. It sounds a lot better, you know. But it's a dope vibe. The cool thing is like it's got the diner vibe, so you can see the front counter. You can sit at the counter while they making the coffee and they doing the other stuff right there. So they sitting right. You can sit right there. And actually, if you go back to the bathroom, further you go in, just the counter with the food, you know, where they running the orders at. So real nostalgic vibe in here.
Very, it's really cute, and it's as you said, right on Halstead, so it's on a main street. I think this like DePaul area has some really good food. If you're a person that only eats in like downtown / River North, this is a good alternative for you because you're gonna get similar quality, lower price, like neighborhood.
Very
neighborhood
affordable food. Very affordable. Not gonna break the bank. Eating out can be expensive. Me and my wife, we went to dim sum. And we love dim sum. I like dim sum. She loves dim sum. But it was good. But it adds up. Them little plates add up. So you know, we know that dining out can be expensive and sometimes prohibitive, but not a good value.
Very.
And we had breakfast here, y'all. We had breakfast here. It was fire.
Yes,
it was really good. Yeah. What did you have?
No, I had pancakes. I had sausage, I had bacon. You know,
and hash browns.
And hash browns. They were all good. They were all good. The potatoes, the hash browns were very potato-ish.
It's seasoned to your own standard.
Yes. And it was good. All of it was good.
Yeah.
Pancakes. I didn't finish the pancakes because it was just a lot. It was a lot of pancakes.
They're pretty good portions. And I think something both of you noted, is that the hash browns look like there's like someone cut them. Like they did not come out of a bag.
Yeah. That's cool to me. Like I know you like that.
Yeah, that's the standard, right?
Yeah.
And you might was talking about them shreds that come out the bag with.
Give me that homemade stuff.
Yes, I want to know somebody's back there cooking. I had a fresh egg skillet.
That looked good.
Yes, and it was very good, and it had fresh. Like everything was fresh,
very colorful,
cut up. Yes, very colorful. So it was good.
Yeah, I had brioche French toast, which was really good.
Yes. They look fluffy. You was cutting
very fluffy. Yes. And you know what I like about them? I love when French toast is like crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how they were. It takes a little bit longer to cook, but it's really good.
I mean, overall, the food came out fast. It's breakfast, but it came out almost abnormally fast.
Yeah.
like it's almost too.
Yeah.
I think they also want to like keep it moving. Like they're not rushing you, but it's a popular place.
And there's also one of those things where it's like, even though there are different things, it's all like the same
variations.
Thing, right? So it's all like so it's all like bacon, eggs, potatoes, right? So it's like it's not things that take a long time to make because you can just sort of have them and you mix and match them as appropriate.
They also have burgers.
Yeah, I saw that. So
and sandwiches.
I wanted look, we'll come back for the burgers. I'm sure I'm sure they probably smack because it's a college town.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you better be good at a few things when you come to college.
Right.
Pizza, hamburgers, hot dogs. They better be all on point.
They also have like for the alternatively palated people. They have like
Vegan.
chicken tenders. No. Like super picky. They have like chicken tenders and cheese quesadillas and stuff like that.
College
You know,
stuff.
turkey sandwich. Like basic for anyone.
Yeah, he said children.
Yeah.
You know.
I feel like every place we picked recently has a little bit of something for everyone.
You should. I mean,
Like,
Chicago. You know, I mean,
That's
Chicago.
true.
They're gonna have
That's true.
everywhere you go. It's gonna be something for. You were talking about another restaurant that sold Chinese food with
Oh, yeah.
Chicago style hot dogs.
Chicago hot dogs and fried rice combo. Like,
Yeah.
so you know,
That's
you
so
can.
funny.
I mean, and that's the one thing. Chicago has a great food culture. So whatever you like, you can get. Right?
get it.
Like
You
that,
get it.
like somebody is selling it, and it'll probably be good. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, I can count on one hand the number of times I had something where I was like, "Oh, this wasn't good."
Yeah.
Right.
You know, my thing is the value proposition. You know, it's like it's got to be good, but the price got to be right.
You
Like,
can't be going too crazy.
right, because
Right.
it can be good, but if you spend too much on it, then it's like
Yeah.
okay, like that was good, but it's like when you get something that's really good and you feel like it's a really good price, then
Yep.
it's great. You're
Right.
like, oh man,
Right.
this is
Yeah,
great.
you know what always puts me over the edge with places is I always say vibe. You know, the
Yeah.
vibe got to be
Vibe,
good,
definitely.
and for me, you always gonna win me when you're a people person first, right?
Right.
And we had the owner come over here. The wait staff has been fantastic.
Super funny.
Super
Yes.
funny. They're gonna be on Zany's and Laugh Factory stage soon.
Right.
We've already talked about it. It's written in stone, so
Yep.
I know they're listening.
Yeah. And one of the stories I love is that the owner, she was talking about how, like, at one point, you know, she pulled her
Rambo.
sleeves up and she did the dishes in the back. You know
and
what
she
I
understood what it meant to run the
Right,
business.
right. And like her husband ran it while he was around, and then when he was gone, like when he's gone, when he
Passed.
there we
Yes.
go. She had to kind of like learn how to run it. So it's like a family-owned small business. So
And
I really like that.
and they survived the pandemic.
Right.
There were 4 locations.
Right.
She was telling us, and I say survived. Probably in the most respectful way because they still had 2 locations.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
In most places,
Have 0 locations.
if you only lost half, you know what I mean? Like some people lost
Right,
everything.
right.
So for them to
Right.
still, and they popping too. It's
Right.
not even like they
Yeah.
are. You're struggling for that. It's a Saturday for us right now.
Yeah.
But they are. It's busting in here right
Yes.
now. Yeah.
because the quality is good, the food is good, the prices are good, the wait staff, the owner, everyone
Fantastic.
is just. And I think we're lucky because when we come in and we're like, hey, can we like record in the corner silently? The owner usually will come and be like introduce themselves, which most people don't get to meet the owner.
Right.
She's on the floor, so I'm looking at her
She
right
just
now.
come
She's
from
like
she just
sitting-
came from the other location.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
You talk to her to get up in here, and this is how dope it is. You talk to her to say, "Hey, look, we coming over here to
Can we,
record."
yeah.
She left there and came here just to meet us, and then
Yeah,
she on the
and-
floor working.
Right, and we didn't even we wouldn't ask that.
Yeah,
you know,
no, we
but
didn't want that. I mean, she
she
got a
just-
business to run.
Right.
But
Yeah.
man,
So I love that. I think when the owners are nice, it makes it more enticing to want to support their business.
yeah, with me, that's an easy W. You know,
Right.
that's an easy W. And like your food could be bad,
Yeah.
but if you cool and respectful, look,
Yeah,
man,
I
I'll
might
be
give
here.
you some pointers, but I'll come.
Yeah, right.
you know?
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
right.
I support.
I
You
really-
know, because I mean, in food, food is
Hospitality.
hospitality, but also it's for everybody, right?
Right.
And everybody don't like everything, right? So,
Right.
so maybe
Yep.
I'm not feeling it, but somebody else might be.
Right.
And like, if you good people, I come get some coffee.
Yeah,
Like,
right,
you know,
exactly.
right.
Yeah, we were invited back to come back for lunch.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know what I mean, and that's not to say that the food ain't good because the food is smacking.
Right,
Let's
it
make
is,
that
yeah.
perfectly clear. The food is fire. Okay, it is 100% certified breakfast food.
Yeah.
But I mean, all the rest of it goes a long way. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And I think, especially coming out of a pandemic, people are probably a little bit more aware of. We got options now, and we probably fortunate to still be here. So we got to be
Right.
a little bit more hospitable.
Right.
In understanding, and that's
Yeah.
where.
But they seem like even the wait staff seems like they've been
That's what
here
they've been,
forever.
and that's what they do. This
Yeah.
is nothing new to them.
Right.
They've been nice before all the
Right.
pandemic stuff.
Yeah.
I think we as patrons need to be nicer. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
absolutely.
I agree.
We need
Some of
to.
these
I
horror
agree.
stories
Oh
about
my
how
God.
people are treating people in these restaurants, and it's just terrible.
After a pandemic,
Right.
Yeah.
It's just awful.
And it's like places that have barely made it,
Right.
like they're trying their best, they're trying to give you their best service and their best quality, and you're coming in just being atrocious.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
be mindful of that. Right.
Yes.
Right.
If I'm giving my final thoughts on this place, man, y'all got to come to Nookie's. Nookie's
Right.
too. It's an easy 2 thumbs up,
Yeah.
and out of Gene Cisco
Yes.
and Roger Ebert. But 2 thumbs up right here. It's what I say, 5 finger licks.
5 finger licks.
all 5.
Yeah.
You get all 5 finger licks. Y'all
Come
on
support
see it.
your local diner.
What you think?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I'm familiar with the other location because it's right by the Chicago History Museum.
There you go.
And we go quite often for lunch. So I love it. I recommend the lunch food. The burgers are good, so you will enjoy them.
Yeah.
And great people, great food, and
Yeah.
you can't beat it.
You can kind of hear it in the background. I think you might
Laughing.
hear it in the
Oh,
background.
did we
yeah.
mention BYOB?
Oh, right.
yeah,
Yeah. it is
yeah.
BYOB.
Yeah, right. We didn't even know that until probably 5 minutes ago.
Right,
as,
we saw somebody
Somebody
BYOB.
popped
you heard that? You heard that bottle pop?
Yes, we was like,
yeah. I'm like, wow, you make your own mimosas here.
Yes,
So-
there you go.
Yeah, but man. So
Yeah. Spend a day at the Chicago History Museum and then
Please
come
do.
for lunch at Nookie's.
yeah, we definitely I gotta go to Chicago History Museum.
I know.
They got the something else at Chicago History Museum. I know we're going back to it, but you got the train car number 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
The first
Really?
elevated railroad car in Chicago. It's on display in our permanent Chicago gallery, which we call Chicago Crossroads of America, all about Chicago history and its role in the country. And so it's great. Kids love that. We have a locomotive engine. So many great things to come, and like I said, fun for the whole family.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we definitely have to. I've never been, so I definitely want to go.
Yeah.
We got to go. Nookie's, 5 finger licks.
Yep.
We're going to give Chicago History Museum 2 thumbs up.
Yes.
And Lincoln Park, man, what a history y'all got.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
we can't wait to circle back because there's probably way more
There's
that we
way more.
haven't. Yeah,
There's way more. Next time, man, let's do this inside the Chicago History Museum.
Yes. Let's do it. Next time we'll do live from the History Museum.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the museum and the history, our history, because we have a fascinating history of it.
Move location.
And then our original location was actually destroyed in the Chicago fire.
Yep.
So we can talk about that and then talk about the future, right? Talk about some of the things we're looking forward to doing as well.
Well, we can't
That's
wait
awesome.
to have you back on. We
Yeah.
can't wait to
I
visit.
can't wait to come back.
Man, let's go. We're going to eat some more. We had lunch this time. We'll have lunch next time. So,
that's all, folks. Y'all be blessed.
Y'all be blessed.
Thank you for listening. If you like the episode, send it to someone you like. If you don't like the episode, I mean, whatever. It's fine.
Whatever. It's
There'll
fine.
be another episode.
Right. There might be another one you like.
There you go.
Check out another
It's
one.
Julius's fault if you don't like this.
Oh, man.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Sarah, Julius, Dario, we
Hey.
out. Peace. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of 77 Flavors of Chicago. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please like, rate, and subscribe to us on all streaming platforms where you listen to podcasts. And we hope you listen soon. We'll catch you back next Monday with a new episode. Bye.